Joining me from Los Angeles is Sky News host James Morrow, now part of the team over there covering the election for us. James, great to see you. I'm sorry to have you so late or so early, whatever it is. James, Biden has since said he misspoke. When he said garbage, he just meant the comedian, not all Trump supporters. Is that going to save the Harris campaign?
Well, I don't think so because, we both know, Andrew, there's a great rule in politics, and that is when you're explaining, you're losing. And what's happened today? Well, it went from Donald Trump having to go and explain away that comedian that he had at the rally who gave Kamala Harris and the Democrats so much fodder to now Joe Biden and the Democrats having to explain away Joe Biden's own gaffe. And the way I kind of feel like it is here, Andrew, is that Joe Biden says what the Democrats are thinking. He's kind of like the Democrats unfiltered. So when he goes and says, all Trump supporters are trash, everybody on the right is trash or garbage, well, that's what they actually think. And so it just takes away from the whole idea of, unity and joy and togetherness that the Kamala Harris campaign tries to project.
Well, it's funny, when they keep saying, it's true. His one lands, whereas the comedian, this idea that Trump is a fascist, normally fascists are proud of it. They say, we're fascist, we're National Socialists, we're Nazis, but Trump denies it. So some fascists there. Look, until then, though, Harris has had a strong day, hadn't she? What did you make of her big speech?
Well, look, the weird thing about the speech was that it was pitched as this great sort of unifying speech, and yet the entire speech was just simply obsessed with Donald Trump. And what would Donald Trump do if he comes to office? Trump has an enemies list. Trump would do this. Trump would do that. Trump would politicize this and that. But, we still hear very little about actually what the Harris campaign will do. We hear very little about what she would do to actually unify Americans. And this is a great problem. It's the same thing we always see. We see it in politics in Australia. The left, the right thinks the left is wrong. The left thinks the right is evil. And that's the great danger, I think, is that if Kamala Harris does get over the line next week, and there is every possibility she does, then we will have a far more divided nation than I think you would under Donald Trump.
Look, I totally agree with you, the mixed message. The first 6 minutes of her speech were entirely about Trump being the new dictator, and the rest was half and half, half about her and half about wicked Trump. But the thing is, I think it was based on nonsense. I think it was contradictory. I thought it was mixed messages, but I did think it sounded powerful and she seemed assured in giving it. Now, we have been assuming that Trump is in the lead, but today after that speech to a very big crowd, I did wonder whether this race is much closer. What's your gut feeling?
Look, my gut feeling is that this is a very close race. I do not think it's necessarily going to definitively fall Donald Trump's way. I know that the polls suggest that. I know that if you look at the early voting trends, that suggests it. But the other thing, though, I would say, Andrew, is that right now, I think almost all votes are pretty much baked in. So even if Donald Trump has this spectacular sort of, or Kamala Harris has this spectacular sort of speech and rally, now, it's not necessarily going to move the needle that much. Really, at this stage, it's about the ground game and it's about getting out the vote. And that's where I think we're going to wind up seeing the result of this. It's not about, her giving a really powerful speech at the end, because everybody knows who she is. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is by now. They've priced these things into their voting equation. I don't sense there are very many undecided voters out there.